He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute! Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that rises from the grave for one more week yet. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And winging his way to you by overnight mail to deliver this podcast in person. No, that's not going to happen. But it's me. It's me, Niall McGowan.
I can't wait to talk about that line. I have questions.
Oh, so many things.
I have questions. But we are joined by a returning guest from the years gone by. Well, last year. We, to talk about this movie, needed to call upon, of course, only the best of film critics. So we have Clarisse Loughrey, and she's back again.
Yes, imagine me rising out of the ground. Covered in vines. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your feelings on this particular film are in general. We could talk about it now, or we can get to it in due course. But it's always fascinating when we get that, like, because when we get like friends on or people we're close to, it's like, well, I kind of know what they're going to say, but I'm genuinely like, I have no clue.
Well, the thing with Batman and Robin is that it's a fun movie to remember or to think about it afterwards.
But not
while
in the
watching
moment.
it. Yeah, well, in the moment, every time I'm watching it, I just feel like a child made this. Like, much respect to you, Joel Schumacher. I know he was just going for a particular style, but the style was a child created this movie.
That's probably why I liked it as a child. But Niall didn't.
I think it actually is. That's a good point, because it's almost because so many of the story beats, particularly things coming up in this week, are things that are like, oh, that's a bit like in Batman Returns. So it's like a kid watched Batman Returns and then was playing with like their action figures or whatever. Yeah. I was like, I'm doing this with Poison Ivy now, but I just ripped it off from the movie I watched last night.
It's very similar. I mean, instantly in this scene, like, all I can think of is Catwoman. We'll get to that though. This is minute 25, and the minute starts with a sad bat for a brief moment, and it ends with some rather sexy foliage.
Let's get one final head bop out of Clooney, like literally doing just to get himself off the screen, like, all right, head bop, here I go. And it's just like, friggin' Cyndi Lauper should write a song about this guy. Like, he bop over here.
He bop. Oh my god. This is about the most acting he's done all film thus far.
Yeah.
Like,
even that head tilt has the vibe of like someone's shot a cut and he's like, all right, I'm off to lunch.
It seems like there's so many moments in this film where it seems like he is just leaving. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I came into this constantly saying, I'm going to defend his acting. I'm going to defend it. I think already at minute 25, it's like, can I though?
I think you set yourself up for like failure there. Yeah. I think you had a noble intent, and now you're just like, oh wait, I had no idea it was going to be this bad.
I know. I want to defend him because I love George Clooney.
I still maintain the theory. I don't know if you know, Clarisse, but this was, in the height of ER, this was being made, and Clooney was literally working 7 days a week. So it does give the vibe, because apparently the set of Batman and Robin was so relaxed in comparison to Batman Forever, where there was like real tension between Kilmer and Schumacher and Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey and whatnot. It feels as if like Joel Schumacher was like, you know what, George, you're doing enough acting on ER. Just take it easy while you're here. And he's just sort of letting him dress in a dressing gown. And it's just like, yeah, let's go out and say the lines. And then just like, don't worry about it. We'll do it in one take. It's fine,
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I get the feeling as well that that George Clooney is one of those fascinating actors where I feel like every role he plays is some sort of modified iteration of himself. Like he kind of, you know how sometimes actors, they'll try and create the character biography, they'll try and alter the movements and really, you know, jump out of their own skin. I feel like George Clooney is like, what would my character do if I was a man who dressed as a bat? What would I personally do if I dressed as a bat? And I feel like there's something in his brain in this movie that it doesn't quite compute. Like you can't, I can see it in his eyes, like the connections aren't, it's not quite going together. And he's like, I'm dressed as a bat and I have this sidekick and he's a bird. And
that's all you need to know.
I just always think about the line, that's why Superman works alone. It's like he doesn't understand what he's saying.
Yeah, it's like he's reading it phonetically in a different language to what he speaks. Like,
because in the George Clooney world, he has no concept of what a George Clooney would do in that situation.
That's a great way of putting it.
If George Clooney was he kind of is a billionaire, but if he had access to all that technology, he would not be Batman. And I think that's why he's struggling.
Yeah, there are some actors you hire to, take on a role. And there are some actors you hire because you like them. Like, you want them in the part. You know what I mean? Like, they bring themselves. And both approaches are valid. Like, I'd say, like a Bill Murray. You hire Bill Murray, you're getting Bill Murray. Yeah. He's not going to be a character. Yeah. And I think Clooney, at least at this stage, arguably still, you hire him because you want George Clooney.
Yeah. That's kind of weird that you bring up Bill Murray specifically, John, because just the other day I watched Mad Dog and Glory, which is a movie with Uma Thurman, where Robert De Niro is like the sad sack detective, and he gets in a relationship with Uma Thurman, who's sort of betrothed to a gangster played by Bill Murray.
Oh.
And it's a terrible film. But the most egregious thing in it is Bill Murray trying not to be Bill Murray.
But
like he's like trying to be the tough guy mobster, throwing Robert De Niro up against the wall and stuff. And you're like, this does not work at all. This imagery is off. Yeah. The thing is, because pre-Pulp Fiction Uma Thurman, so it's like, she's on the cusp of stardom. But she's great in it, though. She's the one like, I can see where she's coming from. And to be fair, De Niro is really good as well, because De Niro he has a wider range. He can do whatever. But yeah, Bill Murray is a violent mobster trying to threaten Robert De Niro. Is like, I guess you thought this was going to be a clever twist when they did the casting, and no, it's literally just a drastic misstep.
But now I have to watch it after that explanation.
I don't think you do.
But Clooney here, I don't mind this very brief bit of acting we get, because I think he's conveying some stuff for once. You see that Bruce, he finishes thinking about the past, the present, and the future. He's thinking, like, how long am I going to have Alfred by my side? I get that in his eyes. It's kind of like, it's nice thinking about their time together, but also a little sad.
Yeah.
So there's a little smile, but it's like a happy, sad smile. If you like you might smile at a funeral,
That's a generous note you're giving them there.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
Yeah,
but we don't get to linger on that too much, though, do we? Because we cut then.
Yeah, back down to South America. Back to this. I think it was Santa Prima would be in the comics, but in the movies it's like some random South American country.
Yeah, it's all the same, And
like, of course, Jason Woodrue back on the horn to his mystery bidder here, who won the bid apparently for sight unseen, and even though mid presentation the phone was dropped and he had no idea what was going on in that room, for some reason this guy's bid to win Bane.
Well, presumably it's because everybody else is now dead, right?
Yeah, the only explanation is all the members of the Ununited Nations are just like, their guts are lying all around the room.
Well, a win is a win.
Yeah. I have to say, too, because he does this whole... Well, one thing, I know we were going with the theory that it might be Lex Luthor that he's on the phone to, because, who would be a big DC villain who would have millions upon millions to throw at a super soldier? Mm-hmm. But just the the term "your supreme ruthlessness." I don't know. I'm leaning more towards like Ra's al Ghul now, because I don't think you call Lex Luthor your supreme ruthlessness. I think you need someone who has a bit more sort of noble stature and has, the sort of, I am the leader of many people. And, Ra's al Ghul is like, his name literally means like the demon's head. He is the leader of the League of Shadows. And so I'd be more like him or like, Vandal Savage or someone like that. Or it could be friggin' King Tut,
Yeah, but none of them are as exciting as Lex.
Yeah. They could have done a nice nod, though, if they were like, oh, greatest criminal mind of our generation, They'd be like, oh, it is Lex Luthor.
But first off, I just want to say, we see the lab, right? Is it just me, or is it even more covered in leaves and stuff than it was like a couple of scenes ago?
Could be an indication of something supernatural.
Well, I wondered, is that what it's saying? Or am I just being an idiot and viewing it from a slightly different angle?
I think the scenery has changed. The lighting's changed. I think because the lighting's gone to this pink hue to everything, where it was a sort of eerie green initially. I think it is an indication of like what's happening under the ground, which as we see the light there is also this pinky purpley color. It is seeping into the rest of the room. I would assume that's the implication, at least.
Yeah, it's weird because that lab at no point ever looks like actual science happened there.
No, not once. Not once.
It was like the very first time you see it, you're like, oh yeah, like some weird superhero thing is going to go down in this.
It kind of looks more like I imagine where people make drugs. It doesn't look like an actual lab. It looks like some teenagers have set up shop in some random abandoned warehouse.
Yeah, it looks like if in Harry Potter, if they had like an underground like herbology
that'd be amazing
class.
Yeah.
That's what it would look like.
This is like Clarisse's pitch for the next Harry Potter. It's like, your new professor of the dark arts, Gentleman Ghost.
That would work. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, look, Warner Brothers seem very keen to just cross over every single one of their properties. So just do Harry Potter and DC already.
You might
Get it
well.
with.
It's the only way to save Harry Potter at this point because of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, take it away from her and just give it to
She makes a public statement saying, I would never cross over Batman. And Harry Potter's like, Warner Bros. Like, fine, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, you don't get to have a say anymore, ma'am.
Thank God. But on the phone here, as you say, Niall, the phone bid has won. But Woodrue says something that baffles me. Baffles me. He's going to ship him, the phone bidder, a super soldier by mail.
Yeah.
Not the serum, a man.
Yeah, and not just any mail, overnight mail.
How do you do that?
Don't they just wrap them in cardboard or whatever? It's like, yeah, stick a couple of stamps on them. It's like, you'll pay the postage on the other side, right? It's like,
I assumed the whole point was you're buying the serum.
no, I think it was the implication was like, you will get the fully formed super soldier. But it's like, yeah, how are you going to get him to? To be honest with you, I think all of this now is Jason Woodrue. He knows, he has a real nervous energy to him, where you could say that's excitement. He is. I love it when he does say your supreme ruthlessness on the phone. He does a little curtsy, even though like unless the bidder can see him, he does have eyes somewhere.
Well, you know me, I'm obsessed with Japan, and there is a big thing in Japan. People can't stop doing this of bowing in phone calls. Because they're so used to doing it in conversation that even in a telephone conversation, it occurs. And they find it funny. Like, oh, yeah, we can't stop doing that.
And then who played the initial version of Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins was Ken Watanabe. Watanabe. That's how I'm butchering his name there. But
Watanabe.
He is a Japanese guy. So, oh, you never know, could be Ra's al Ghul.
There you go. Everything's connected.
It's also, too, because I think at this point in the comics, they had the sequel to Nightfall, where Bane and Ra's al Ghul also teamed up for the Legacy storyline. So it could, I don't know, I'm leaning in that direction. Plus, in that way, it could be like, oh yeah, Raj just sent someone from the League of Shadows but because they're like ninjas, they're just in the lab somewhere. So he's just like, okay, I guess they saw what happened, but
they're like Burns and Smithers. They're stuck to the ceiling.
Yeah. Like Poison Ivy trashing the lab, and then it's like, good day to you, walking out.
Well, because of this line as well that I loved / hated, I researched like throughout history people posting themselves in the mail. So I picked two because there was a few instances, but I went with a couple. And perhaps the most famous self-mailer is Henry Box Brown. Guess how he got that nickname?
It's like, if he had that nickname first, that really was something.
Well, he was an escaped Virginia slave who mailed himself to Pennsylvania, which was a free state, in 1849. So he was at work, and he deliberately burnt his hand, so they'd like sort of send him, go and recuperate. And then he colluded with abolitionists in Philadelphia to package himself up in a box with a bottle of water, some biscuits, a blanket, and ship himself. Because in the 19th century, shipping was very private. Nobody knew what was in the packaging. You didn't have to declare what was in the box. And it cost $86, which these days is about $2,500.
Ooh,
so that's a lot of money.
Moly.
So I assume the abolitionist provided that money. Because he wouldn't have had that money. He's a slave. And it took 27 hours to reach his destination.
Hey, but 27 hours, I guess, isn't that bad for,
Better than being a slave. He got there fine, and he became a public speaker on abolitionism and an entertainer as well.
The thing is, with Bane, it's like, the frequently annoying thing I now find when I sold a book on eBay or something, is then you go there, you have to weigh it. And then it ends up costing way more than you anticipated to actually post the thing. How much is Bane gonna weigh? Send him overnight mail.
$2,500. we know, Niall. We know.
It's like if it was overnight mail. He's coming from South. Well, I guess we don't know where he's going to.
That's true. It could be like 5 miles up the road.
Yeah. But we'll notice too in the novelization, and this makes me think that at this point, Woodrue is just a complete huckster. Because he says in the novelization, I'll have thousands of super soldiers sent to you by tomorrow via overnight mail. At this point, I think he knows I can't control Bane. He destroyed the lab, threw people across the room. I don't know if I can actually market this thing. I'm just hoping now. I'm just like, yeah, send that money straight away. I'll get them to you by overnight mail. Don't you worry about it. And it's just like, no refunds. Just hang up the phone, take the money, and run.
Well, imagine that, Bane, get in the box.
You'd have to literally just dope him to high heaven, but then look at the size of the guy. You'd have to you'd be more friggin' dope than there is in that entire country.
Well, this is why he should be selling the serum.
But then that's the McDonald's secret formula, though. It's like you could be making. Why make millions when you can make billions?
And also, I've discovered through TikTok, I didn't know this. People mail spiders.
What?
They put spiders in the mail, and on TikTok there's things where they just get a package and they open it up and it's a little plastic container with cotton wool, and inside of the cotton wool is some rare potentially poisonous spider. And
is it like a prank, or is it people want these spiders?
It's an actual service. You can buy a spider on the internet, and they will mail it in the mail in just a normal box. That's what really freaks me out.
That's weird. That's I looked up once getting a tortoise, a big tortoise as a pet. I really still want one, and they come in the mail, but it's like a delivery van. It's like a specialist thing. I
thought you were going to say they just put a stamp on the tortoise. It'll get to you eventually, but it might take 20 years.
It just walks slowly towards you. Yeah.
To be fair, though, free shipping, so you can't complain.
Yeah. It's all included in the price. But a lot of people, one last thing, were annoyed with this guy for revealing his method of escape. Which at first I was like, well, why are they annoyed? And then it dawned on me why. Because then other slaves couldn't do the same goddamn thing.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing you'd want to keep, like...
That's a secret.
Get the word out about it, but don't let, like, the higher-ups know, basically.
But you know, I get why he did also want to go and tell his story immediately. It's wild.
Yeah.
I did another one I picked was in 1964, Reg Spears, who was a Olympic-level Australian javelin thrower. He found himself stranded in England after failing to qualify for the English Olympic team, because apparently he could qualify for them then. And his wallet was stolen, leaving him penniless. So he decided, my only option for getting home is to mail myself in a crate. Cash on delivery, and then he'll figure out the payment when he gets there.
Did it work, at least?
Well, it did.
Now they sent him back. He's still there.
Yep. No, his friend built him a box 5 feet by 3 feet by 2.5 feet. He put some straps in so he could hold himself steady when getting jostled around and everything. It's quite fancy. It had pillows, blankets, food, water, a bottle to pee into, things like that. And he was just like, "Yep, send me to Australia." And there were lots of.
He's like, you know what? I'm happy in the box. Can I just live in here?
Well, he had a lot of delays in London, so he's stuck in the box for ages. Surprise, surprise! Our postal service is crap. And then there was a layover in Mumbai, so that wasn't pleasant for him apparently. But after 3 days, he got home. He got back to Perth Airport, let himself out of the box, and he was fine. He stole a beer from the cargo area as well, which is the most Australian thing I could imagine. Stuck on his own clothes, put a suit on, and just walked out. Hitchhiked home.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but his friend who'd built him the box was worried because he hadn't heard from him for days because of these delays. And so he alerted the press. Like, oh, God, no, I was helping him, that he might have died. So after a few days, like the press was sort of hounding him and pestering him to speak to them. Oh my God, how did you survive this? You know, but that had a benefit because the airline was so amazed they just forgave his debt.
That's a real, like, you got moxie, kid.
Yeah, basically. And then he wrote a book that he called Out of the Box, which is about the whole thing. What a hero.
Great, though, if his friend was also like, did you bring the box with you? Like, no one left it in the place. Like, God damn it. I built that box. They got you guys put a lot of work in that thing.
Yeah, that could be like a museum piece. Although I didn't actually look up what happened to the box, but there were photos of it. So presumably somebody has taken it, you know.
That's in someone's basement now.
Yeah, to be honest, the straps on it look a bit fetishy, so probably.
Speaking of fetishy, though, Batman and Robin. Because there goes, in the middle of Woodrue's whole discussion with his on-call bidder. There's rumblings within the lab, and very strange sound effects I felt. In the resurrection of Pamela Isley here, because it kind of sounds like you get a bit of rumbling. Fair enough, we don't know how much space she has down in the ground. Like, you'd assume it'd just be like there wouldn't be enough room to make a rumbling noise, but then it's kind of sounds like there's like a suction noise, and then it sounds like a balloon is getting let out, but like you just untied the knot and just went. It's just not very dramatic, and it kind of just sounds really silly, which is par for the course, I guess, of the whole film.
How dare you belittle this groundbreaking moment when our glorious mistress Poison Ivy rises from the depths?
But it sounds a bit like a damp firework or something, and then just it's just a bit like.
I get it. I do get it.
It's just a little bit underwhelming.
I'm so in awe of her presence, though, that I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm Woodrue. Oh, actually, I don't ever want to claim to be Woodrue. He's a creep. But he immediately sees her rise out of the ground, and his reaction isn't like, "Oh my God, you're alive." It's basically, "Oh, you're like even hotter now."
I wonder actually, because she comes out. There's a lot of dry ice in this movie, in general. But we know that Poison Ivy. One of her things is she has the little vanity mirror with the pheromones she blows off. I'm wondering if all this smoke around her is the pheromone. And but the thing is, it could be that, and it's like, so he's instantly like, "Oh, you look great." It's just it just overwhelms him. But he was also a creep to her, like from the get go.
And let's be honest, we have to just put it out there. She looks amazing. He's right. He's not wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm sure everyone will agree. And if you don't agree, I don't want to hear from you.
This will be the time to mention, actually, the reason Uma Thurman was cast in this is Joel Schumacher has fond memories of the first time he ever saw her in anything was in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. And if you haven't seen that film, it's Terry Gilliam 80s movie, so it's very, very busy and very nonsensical. But there's a sequence where they go inside a volcano and they meet Oliver Reed, who's the king of the volcano. And his wife comes out, and it's Uma Thurman, but she is Venus, like the Botticelli painting of the birth of Venus. It is like there's a pool, and a seashell comes up, and it opens up, and it's Uma Thurman standing inside in that pose. And Joel Schumacher said, like, as soon as I saw that, I and the rest of the world fell in love with Uma Thurman. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. I actually think he's trying to evoke that here. Like, that's why she comes up out of the ground in some fashion. In the way her arms go, it kind of goes into the pose momentarily of the Venus painting. And of course, Venus being the Roman goddess of love, beauty, desire, and sex. So it's very, very appropriate that you use that imagery for Poison Ivy in particular.
And it's interesting because it's a mixture. It's also evoking the other famous Botticelli painting, Primavera, where it's the springtime, which explains all the leaves and the foliage.
Oh my
gosh. Actually, very highbrow.
See, this movie is classy.
Joel Schumacher can do intelligent things sometimes.
This is his most intelligent work. And I think people are misunderstanding. See, we're getting to the bottom of it. He's inspired by art.
I should also mention as well, in another nice little tie-in, is that in the Adventures of Baron Munchausen, like so many things, like the Wizard of Oz and stuff, there's like fantasy characters, but then they have like a quote-unquote real-life counterpart. So Uma Thurman is in it as like Venus, the wife of Oliver Reed, the Volcano King or whatever. But she's also in, earlier in the movie as just like a normal woman, and her name in it is Rose. And of course, we've talked about several times already that in the comics, at one point, Pamela Isley was actually called Lillian Rose for a bit. So it's like, that was a nice little, two crossing over of alter egos there. Like, that's a nice little coincidence. So.
And they're like, it doesn't sound enough like Ivy. We gotta change it.
Yeah, Pamela Isley, I like that. And I hate it. But all the alternatives I've heard are worse. So, okay.
Yes.
I'll go with it. It fits because, we've already got Victor Fries. So it's fine. Everyone just so happens to turn into something that sounds like their name.
Should also mention too that while he's still on screen, because we have obviously Jason Woodrue here, the Floronic Man, as he's known in the comics, going through with one of his evil schemes, and before he sadly departs the movie in a minute or two, just want to bring up one of his most famous escapades from the comics, which happened very close to this movie coming out in Batman Shadow of the Bat number 56 from November 1996. The storyline Leaves of Grass by Alan Grant, not the Sam Neill character from Jurassic Park. Very tragic. But within that, at the beginning of it, Poison Ivy is broken out of Arkham by these two mystery twins, one of whom is actually called Eva Green, which is like, Eva Green would actually be a good Poison Ivy as well if you want to cast her.
Why not?
That's so funny.
Yeah, and then she's brought then to Jason Woodrue, who's like now, at this point, he's just like a head on like a weird tree body. And it turns out like he gives her his story of what his current plan is, that in his last encounter with Swamp Thing, he was beheaded and then taken to Star Labs because he wasn't dead. And they deemed him worthy enough to like, well, we better regrow him because he's like, we can study this guy. But for some reason in the lab he was been kept in, one of the guys was just growing a marijuana plant. Like not even just a plant, a crop of them. And because he takes all his, things from the plant life around him, he is infused with the devil's lettuce, basically. And then, so his massive plan is to take over the world. Oh, actually, no, specifically, he says, I don't want to rule the world, I just want to get it stoned. And so what he's doing is sending out this super-powered weed, which Batman calls Super Skunk, which I thought was fantastic.
Yes.
And
actually,
basically,
that's a phrase here in England, though, isn't it? That's what the media call, like, these really strong strains.
Oh, maybe somebody read Leaves of Grass back in 96. But yeah, his whole plan is like, and it's one of those ones where you're like, okay, because he's not like, I don't want to, it's nothing malicious really about it, but he's just like, I want to, if I get this out there, hemp is it's a much superior material, which is factually true as well. It's like, oh, it's better than paper, it's better than petroleum, it's better than this, that, and the other.
Everything.
Like the Declaration of Independence is written on, hemp paper, and still that thing's still going. But it's like, but it's also the thing like, well, if everyone's addicted to this weed, then everyone's going to calm down and chill out. There'll be no more wars, and then it'll create this, giant weed-run economy. And then the reason he's broke Poison Ivy out is that he wants them to have a baby, so the baby can then run the economy as a plant-human hybrid. Which is one of the real, I think they just wanted to get Poison Ivy into the storyline somehow. So they just threw in, oh, he also wants to do this.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
And but then, of course, Batman comes and stops him. And it's just great at the end, because it just has, Batman takes down Floro, as he's called in this storyline. Just friggin' beheads him as well. He's just like, he's not human. Chopped his head cleaned off. And then on top of the GCPD headquarters, Jim Gordon is burning all the weed. He's just set up a bonfire on top of the building. So there's this giant cloud of weed smoke going down over the city. And he's saying to Batman, I have the crime statistics for the period Floro's grass was on the streets. Muggings, assault, armed robbery, they're all down. There's less of everything except road accidents and raids on cookie stores. But then Batman counters with, but admissions to mental hospitals were up 20%. And at least a dozen drug dealers were killed or maimed. And then Jim goes, granted, but it makes you wonder, though. And Batman goes, not me, it doesn't. And Jim's like, well, wherever you're headed, stay upwind of this little lot. It's supposed to play havoc with spatial coordination. And it's really just showing you, he's just dousing the whole city in weed smoke, basically. But the main thing that I took away from the comic was, because, you like Batman, and I don't mind smoking a little weed every now and again. But it really points out, oh, yeah, Batman's very anti-weed. He's just no.
He's all about
illegal.
Keeping, to the straight and narrow.
Yeah, there's the whole thing where Tim Drake is offered something. He's like, I don't know if I want to take it or not and stuff. And Batman's just like, no, it's against the law. You're not supposed to do that.
He's such a square.
It really is. It's like, oh yeah, Batman is a square, I guess.
Well, remember everything when we were kids, though, Niall, was like, say no to drugs.
Yeah.
In fact, there's that Turtles thing. I think it's on a T-shirt now. You can buy it where it's like, pop pizza, not pills. It's amazing.
No.
Well, there was one too where there was Freddy Krueger with a bike. And it was like, Freddy says pop wheelies, not pills. Yeah, yeah. It's like, don't do anything Freddy Krueger tells you to do.
Wait. So the killing children in their nightmares is fine. But my God, don't take pills.
If anything, that'll make me go, maybe I should take drugs. I don't want to be like him.
It could be that Freddy was like, don't take sleeping pills.
Well, yeah.
Or don't take caffeine pills. Make sure you fall asleep.
Oh God.
But yeah, that's a very worthwhile storyline. Seeking out the Leaves of Grass. Part 1 was called Twin Peaks, which I enjoyed. I was like, I'll enjoy that.
What happened to Eva Green?
Oh, she just runs off. She's her and her sister Holly, and it's just like they're just the henchwoman for the they only have a little bit. They fight Poison Ivy and then they take off. And
the star in Casino Royale.
The thing is, that's actually, if they were to do Poison Ivy in the Matt Reeves verse, I could imagine Eva Green doing it because it's like, oh, well, she's more somber, more serious version of the character and stuff. Although Eva Green's done a lot of comic book stuff as well, so
yeah, she could she can do high camp Dark Shadows was very Poison Ivy in this movie.
Well, and she's the only good thing in that second Sin City film. It's not a bad movie, but you don't really care about any of it unless she's on the screen. And you're like, oh, she's good.
Or Lady Gaga, that like 5 minutes that Lady Gaga is in the movie for some reason.
Give her 5 times more screen time. It's something. It really felt like they were like, we did all the good stories last time. I don't know. These are the C stories.
I think I did because I posted the story in the listeners' cave about Margot Robbie looking for Poison Ivy, and someone did suggest Lady Gaga in the comments.
That would work.
I was like, yeah.
Well, plus,
she did that applause video. She did the Venus pose, and everything's like, it's all coming together.
Well, plus, she has a song, Venus,
Oh,
which
there
is
you go.
my favorite Lady Gaga song, and I will probably
Very
listen to it
good.
400 times before I go to bed after this.
I just
The way
think of that
she
song.
says Uranus, really, I love
that.
it.
I love that so much. Oh no, my favorite. Sorry to interrupt. My favorite is the way she says Jupiter in that bit.
Jupiter,
Jupiter. Yeah.
Venus, great
I just
song.
think of the 70s Venus song, and then just imagine Patty and Selma singing it. So that one bit, Venus.
Yes.
Oh, Venus.
Oh God. In the actual minute, there's one other thing I want to talk about. Right. I love this. I love it so much. When she says to him, she goes, "Hello, Jason."
It made me wish I knew someone called Jason, so I could be like, "Hello, Jason."
Again, very drag though. It's very Alaska. But the saxophone behind her is just the most amazing thing in the world.
I actually initially wrote my note was like, anytime Elliot Goldenthal uses a saxophone, my heart soars because one of my favorite things in Batman Forever was when they cut to like the big box opening event, and it had the sleazy the Batman theme but through a saxophone. Then I realized it's not so much Elliot Goldenthal, Joel Schumacher when he gets his hands on a saxophone, because then friggin' the Lost Boys, Tim Capello, and the friggin' oiled up saxophone guy's like, Joel Schumacher, he knows good ways to put saxophones in movies.
Well, he was a sexy guy. He knew what he was into, and what's sexier than a saxophone?
Yeah. It's like I will admit it did get a big laugh out of me. Just like as soon as she starts speaking, it's like, how do we make this sexy? Just sax it up.
Yeah. Amazing. And she starts to explain how she's back and better than ever, but it cuts off. We don't get to fully hear. Should we save that for the next minute?
Yeah. I suppose we can do. Yeah.
It feels weird to talk about two little bits of the line, and then
I think we got her saying we do have, as Clarisse alluded to at the very beginning, where he's just like, Pamela, and she does this, It's just getting very sexy very quickly, because that's what Poison Ivy's all about, baby.
she looks
She's
great
just
for a
feeling
dead
herself.
feeling her oats.
Yeah. Also should have to say that I think the fact that her stomach is bare is very telling, because I guess it's the birth of Poison Ivy. So you're seeing where her umbilical cord would be, I guess. I was like, well, there you go. That's why it's framed in that way, of her stretching out to show it and stuff.
I'm sure it's that, and it's not just.
Well, it's also, the sexiness as well.
Yeah, because that was the height of sexiness at that time, right? It was bare midriffs.
Yeah. This is just around the time that you're getting belly button piercings coming in as well, isn't it? Yeah.
This is prior to the... I never put it together until I was talking to Liz Whitaker of Mean Girls Minute about Mean Girls. And I was saying, there's weird, there seemed to be a lot of, in the early 2000s, of, shirts that would show a bit of stomach, but it was only at the bottom. And she's like, it's low-rise jeans. It's not the shirt, it's the
pants,
jeans.
yeah.
And I was like, I never knew that. It's like, I always heard the term low-rise jeans, and it was only then I was like, oh, that's what it means. It's because it's not going up as high as it used to.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
They did it with, especially because then I was a goth around that time. So I would, a bit like now, I'd wear some femme kind of clothes. But even the male end of the spectrum was like, let's make the waistline lower and lower and lower. It's like, but in a masculine cut, that kind of doesn't work.
Yes, I think even Alicia Silverstone, Cher Horowitz herself bemoans this fact in Clueless, when I think she's given up at the grunge look. But it's like, guys who can't put their trousers on the full way up, is like, we don't want to see your underpants. What the hell are you doing?
That was all the rage.
They're threatening to bring them back.
Oh God.
And it's hanging over my head and it's scaring me.
I like now it's like the fashion industry is sitting there going, we're bringing them back. He's like, no, don't do it.
Well,
We're going to make you wear these damn things whether you like it or
we're
not.
from the era where, what was cool, especially for women, was, you've got your low-rise jeans with your thong sticking out.
Yeah.
Nothing sexier than that, right?
I know you probably feel the same way, Clarisse, but I am hoping that this Cruella de Vil movie takes the fashion world by storm, and then just everything's that for a while. Because the outfits in that movie are just like, I have no real interest in the film itself. I'll definitely watch it, but I'm 100% watching it for Emma Stone's outfits, basically, because they all look incredible.
Yeah. I am having like physical reactions every time I see a new picture of one of the costumes. Yeah. It's just my dream wardrobe is whatever she's wearing, and that the high shoulders, the black, the leather, the textures. I'm just getting excited thinking about it. Let's not talk about this.
It's another one of these situations where we're going to end up liking the villain, though, isn't it?
I think that seems to almost be the problem, in that's like it's going to make her. I think they're even saying like in all the publicity and stuff, and like, oh, it'll make you understand Cruella de Vil, really humanize her. And it's like. At the same time, it's like, she wanted to kill a bunch of dogs, right? Like, that's her whole thing.
Like, I love her because she's a villain. It's a bit like, I'm going to have to be a nerd now and bring up my love of wrestling. They do that in wrestling, right? There'll be an evil group that people love because they're evil. Let's go into the 90s, the NWO, the New World Order. They were villains, and they were the coolest villains ever. So people loved them. So then they took over the show, almost. To the point where it's like, well, now they're like the good guys, but it's like, well, now they're not cool. Like, you've ruined it now. I like that they're not good.
But this is what Birds of Prey did very well with Harley Quinn, is that she's still a villain, and she does pretty atrocious stuff in that movie.
I think I found that really refreshing, and towards the end, it's like, oh yeah, she's still like a real asshole in this. Like, that's the kind of takeaway of the character.
Yeah, like when she's roller derbying and punches Buster straight in the face.
Like just sells out the kid she's supposed to be taking care of. It's like, I just need to get rid of you.
You've got to keep that in for the character. If you take that away, just don't make the film.
I think that was a real telling point of the fact that it was Kathy Yan making it, though, because one thing. I'm all for, like, the uprise in positive female portrayals and big blockbuster films and stuff now, but I do find a lot of them, it's almost because they're predominantly written by male writers. Yeah. I feel like they're almost scared to make these characters flawed in some way. So they're like, oh yeah, just perfect badasses the whole time. But so then you get Kathy Yan coming and is able to go like, no, but Harley's the main character, but she's very, very flawed human being. She's just kind of a real asshole, but she's still the main character and you still care about her. It's like, yeah, well, that's what you want. You want someone with a bit more nuance rather than, as much as I liked, like, Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Gwen and that is just like a perfect, infallible character. And it's like, after a while, it gets a bit, I would imagine it would just get a bit dreary for female audiences.
Are you suggesting that women should write parts for women? Not men.
This is what I've always struggled with, because growing up, like, I wanted to be Han Solo. Like, I wanted to be the kind of, I didn't want to be Luke Skywalker. I wanted to be the kind of cool, a bit useless, but...
Oh, I was the nerd who wanted to be Luke. I think all the geeky kids are. Yeah, but then this is the thing, there were never ever female characters that were written like that, because they were either like Ripley's great, but she's like she's too on it, and I was like, I don't relate to that. Or it was like Black Widow, like kicking lady who has no emotions. So I was so overjoyed, like, both by Birds of Prey, and I remember watching Thor Ragnarok and seeing Valkyrie, who's kind of the Han Solo character of that movie, and being like, oh my god, like, this is what I wanted to be when I was a kid. This is the character I would have been obsessed with if I was a kid. Well, maybe that's a good reason then. Because I've been vocal against this, but maybe it should. Live action version of the Star Wars comic character, Dr. Aphra.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's got a Han Solo kind of vibe going.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Even Jyn Erso. Jyn Erso's like my favorite Star Wars character because like she's very much not.
She's amazing.
Like she's kind of annoying and weird, and she just doesn't want to be a part of it, and I love that.
I relate to that a lot more. Like, I don't want any part of this. This is nonsense.
Well, I still just like after that trailer, still just annoyed that she's not named Ira Bell. It's just like, oh, it was right there. You could have made the joke, but no.
Which, connecting it back to one thing I want to say about Poison Ivy, that kind of kind of annoys me about this movie is I know this is not. Oh, can I go forward slightly in the film?
Yeah, do it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just to talk about, I hate that scene where Batgirl lectures her.
Oh,
Be like,
yeah.
you're a bad feminist. I just would be like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, she's cool.
She's awesome.
Sorry.
Everyone loves us. Shut up,
Yeah.
Batgirl.
She knows that her like sexuality can be used for her own gain, and she's like, sure, she's a bad lady, but it's cool.
Yeah. At the same time, screenplay written by a man.
Well,
so
there
it
you
just shows you like,
Yeah.
he's just like, I'm going to put these feminists in their place. Quite frankly.
Yeah, but see, that was like a man's idea of like what a feminist lecturing would be, and it's just like, no.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I suppose especially then, a man's perspective on it would be, well, a feminist wouldn't be behind sexuality. No, of course not.
Yeah, she's got to be wearing some weird rubber thing.
But anyway, has anyone got any more notes for minute 25, or should we roll on in to the next minute?
We'll roll on. I'm all noted out.
Yeah.
So we will head off into the dark, dark night. Clarisse, would you like to tell people where you can be found online and where you'll promote anything you like, really, that's coming up?
Yes, I'm Clarisse Loughrey, and I have like 4 podcasts going at the moment. So if you love the TV show American Horror Story, I do The Next Supremes. If you just want movies coming out, listen to Fade to Black. If you like classic movies, like the big dogs of cinema going against each other, we mentioned it earlier, but The Screen Test. Or if you love books that have been adapted into movies, I also do the Big Screen Book Club. And our next episode, the book we're reading at the moment, is Chasing Skies, which was the basis for Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, nice.
That's exciting. Oh, my God.
For a second, you're going to say we are currently reading the novelization of Batman and Robin.
Hey, we could. That's the thing. We're doing, books that are turned into movies, but maybe we could do movies that have been turned into books at some point.
Check all of that out, everybody. All wonderful. And come and speak to us on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Bat-Minute, Instagram, The Bat-Minute, because some arse, you'll have to blank that out now, sorry, took Bat-Minute. And, I don't know, come to our Patreon, the Sleepy Charlie Media Patreon, and get loads of lovely bonus, cool, exciting things for like $2 a month. Or you can give us more if you really want. You can go as high as you want. Give us $100 a month. That's fine, if you really want to. And we will see you again on Wednesday for more Bat Minute and Robin.
Next time, but a kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it. A woody-touting Woodrue is sucked into a caress and given an amorous elixir from an emerald enchantress. But while this lethal lip-lock might lead one sleazy Lothario 6 feet under, is a revitalized violent vixen ready to rip her old life asunder? Where in the weeds on Wednesday, Bat fans. Same Bat pod, different Bat minute.
We'll be back.